Hello, welcome to Life After the Family Home. Smart conversations about downsizing and planning the next chapter. Today's conversation is about a question that is easy to overlook. Because on the surface, everything may seem fine. The house still works. But does it fit your lifestyle? Well, that is an important question. Because sometimes a homeowner is not dealing with a major problem. The roof may be fine. The kitchen still works. The bedrooms are still there. Nothing feels urgent. Nothing feels broken enough to force a decision. And yet, something still feels off. This is something Skip Benton with Coldwell Banker Select, real estate in Northern Nevada, has seen many times. A homeowner may look around and say, well, the house still works. And that may be true, but working and fitting are not always the same thing. A house can still function, still be familiar, still be full of memories, still check the basic boxes, and still no longer fit the way you want to live now. That is the difference this conversation is really about. Because lifestyle fit is not only about whether a house is usable, it is about whether the house supports your daily life in a way that feels comfortable, manageable, and aligned with the next chapter. That is a different standard. And for many homeowners, a more meaningful one. Sometimes the signs are subtle. You may notice you're only using part of the house. You may find that certain rooms sit empty most of the time. You may be spending time cleaning, maintaining, heating, cooling, or ensuring space that is no longer serving much purpose. Or maybe the house still works, but it asks more from you than it used to. More stairs, more yard work, more cleaning, more upkeep, more repairs, more mental energy. And that is where the question starts to shift. Not, can I still live here? But, is this home still helping me live the way I want to live? That is a much better question. Because for many people, the issue is not whether they're capable of staying. The issue is whether staying still makes sense for the lifestyle they want. And those are two very different things. This is especially true for homeowners entering a new stage of life. Children are gone. Schedules are different. Priorities are shifting. Energy may feel different. Free time may be more valuable. Simplicity may start sounding a lot more appealing than space. That does not mean the home is wrong. It may have been exactly right for many years. In fact, that is often the point. The home was right for one chapter. But that does not automatically mean it is right for the next one. And sometimes that is a hard truth to see because nothing dramatic happened. There was no crisis, no sudden event, no obvious deadline, just a growing awareness that the home still works. But maybe it is no longer the best fit. That kind of awareness matters, because it is often the earliest sign that a future change may deserve real thought. One of the reasons this gets overlooked is that people tend to judge homes by function first. Do the systems work? Is there enough room? Can I still manage it? Those are fair questions, but they are incomplete. A better way to think about it is this. A home should not only be possible to live in, it should also support the kind of life you want to have. Does it make daily living easier? Does it reduce stress? Or add to it? Does it fit your current routines? Or keep pulling you back into old ones? Does it feel comfortable for today? Not just familiar because of yesterday? Those questions can reveal a lot. Sometimes the answer is yes, the home still fits beautifully. And that is fine. This is not a conversation about pushing anyone out of a home that still feels right. It is a conversation about noticing when still work becomes the main reason for staying, because that is often a clue. If the best thing you can say about the house is that it still works, that may be worth paying attention to, especially if what you really want is something easier, lighter, more convenient, or more aligned with how you live now. For some homeowners, the mismatch shows up physically. Too many stairs. A large lot that used to feel enjoyable and now feels like one more responsibility. A layout that requires more walking, more caring, more effort than it used to. A garage full of things that no longer support daily life. A guest room that is rarely used but always cleaned. A formal space that once made sense and now just sits there. Again, nothing may be wrong, but the fit may be changing. For others, the mismatch is financial, not in a crisis sense, but in a lifestyle sense. Maybe the monthly cost of maintaining the home no longer feels like the best use of money. Maybe utilities are high because the house is larger than needed. Maybe repairs keep showing up. Maybe the cost of maintaining unused space starts to feel harder to justify. That does not always create urgency, but it can create clarity, because part of lifestyle fit is financial fit too. A house that consumes more money, time, or effort than feels worthwhile may still function, but still not be the best match. And sometimes the mismatch is emotional, not because the home is bad, but because it holds a version of life that is no longer current. The home may still be arranged around the life of a larger family, a busier season, different routines, different responsibilities, different priorities. And as life changes, a house can start feeling like it belongs to an earlier version of you. That is not necessarily sad. Sometimes it is simply honest. And honesty is what helps these decisions become clearer. Another helpful way to look at this is to think in terms of support. Does the home support the way you want to live over the next 5 to 10 years? Not just this year. Not just because you know where everything is. Not just because moving sounds like a lot of work. But truly, Does it support the next stretch of life in the way you want? That question matters because lifestyle fit is really about the future. It is about whether the home continues to serve you well, not only whether you can keep serving the home. And that is a powerful distinction because many homeowners slowly slide into a pattern where more of their time and energy goes into taking care of the property instead of enjoying life around it. More maintenance, more errands, more contractors, more upkeep, more organizing, more tasks. And eventually the house that once supported life begins managing the homeowner. That is when the conversation often starts changing. Not because the home has failed, but because the relationship to the home has changed. That is important. Because once you see it clearly, you can stop asking the wrong question. The wrong question is, can I make this work a little longer? The better question is this still the way I want to live? That question has more honesty in it, more freedom in it, and often more hope in it too. Because when a house no longer fits your lifestyle, the answer is not necessarily loss. Sometimes the answer is relief. Relief at having less to manage. Relief at having less space to maintain. Relief at being in a home that feels easier, more efficient, more comfortable, and more aligned with daily life. That is why this conversation is not really about giving something up. It is about choosing what supports you best now. And that is a much healthier frame. A lot of homeowners delay this kind of thinking because they believe that unless something is clearly wrong, there's no reason to consider change. But that is not true. You do not need a problem to justify wanting a better fit. That applies to homes just like anything else. You are allowed to want ease. You are allowed to want simplicity. You are allowed to want a home that feels more practical for this chapter of life. You are allowed to outgrow a house emotionally, even if you have not outgrown it physically. That is real. And for many homeowners, that realization is the beginning of a very thoughtful next step. Not a rushed decision. Not a forced move. Just the beginning of a clearer conversation. What would life feel like in a home that was easier to maintain? What would feel better on a daily basis? What spaces would actually be used? What responsibilities would feel lighter? What would become simpler? Those are worthwhile questions because sometimes the right move is not prompted by crisis. Sometimes it is prompted by clarity. And clarity often begins with noticing that the house still works, but the lifestyle fit is changing. So if this idea has been quietly sitting in the back of your mind, here's the takeaway. Do not wait for something to go wrong before asking whether the home still fits. Do not assume still works is the same as still right. And do not overlook the value of a home that supports the life you want now, not just the life you used to have. Because the best home for the next chapter is not always the biggest one, or the one with the most memories, or the one that still technically works. Sometimes the best home is simply the one that fits your life better now. Thank you for joining this conversation on Life After the Family Home, smart conversations about downsizing and planning the next chapter. For more guidance, connect with Skip Benton with Coldwell Banker Select Real Estate in Northern Nevada.